WWE's new era didn't just change the look of the company, it completely reshaped how value was measured. Not just in championships, not just in main events, but in pure money. And once you start looking at the numbers, things get strange. Not, oh, that's interesting strange, but the kind that makes you pause and rethink how this entire system works. Because in WWE, logic doesn't always follow effort. Sometimes it follows presence. Sometimes it follows history. And sometimes it follows something you can't even fully explain. That's what makes this list different. We're not just counting salaries, we're watching how reality bends inside the business. From numbers that feel normal, to numbers that feel slightly off, to numbers that make absolutely no sense at all. And by the time we reach the top, strange won't even feel like the right word anymore. Number 10. Braun Strowman. Salary, $450,000. At first glance, this feels reasonable. A massive, dominant figure, someone built like a walking natural disaster, earning close to $500,000. That checks out. It's not shocking, not outrageous, just a solid number for someone positioned as a destructive force. But then you start thinking deeper. This wasn't a veteran with decades behind him. This wasn't someone slowly climbing the ladder. This was a relatively fresh main roster presence being handed a number that many wrestlers spend years chasing. And suddenly it shifts from normal to slightly strange. WWE wasn't paying for experience here. They were paying for impact, the kind that happens the moment he steps into the ring. 1 year in and already sitting at $450,000. Not crazy, but definitely not ordinary. Number 9. Sasha Banks. Salary, $150,000. Now, this is where things start to feel off, because $150,000 is a good salary anywhere else. But in WWE terms, especially for someone of Sasha's caliber at that time, it feels strangely low. This wasn't a background performer. This was a central figure in one of the most important transitions in WWE history, the rise of the women's division. She had the crowd, the matches, the presence. And yet, her number sits far below others who arguably contributed less in terms of visibility and influence. That's where the imbalance begins to show. It's not that $150,000 is small, it's that it doesn't match the reality fans were seeing every week. And that disconnect, that's where strange starts creeping in. Number 8. Rosa Mendes. Salary, $220,000. And now we officially cross into confusing territory, because when you place Rosa Mendes above Sasha Banks in terms of salary, the numbers stop telling a straightforward story. Instead, they start revealing WWE's hidden logic, seniority. Rosa wasn't dominating storylines, she wasn't headlining events, but she had something else: time. Years of being part of the system, years of showing up, years of being reliable. And that translated into a higher paycheck. From the outside, it looks strange. Actually, it looks very strange. But from WWE's internal perspective, it makes sense. Still, when a less visible name earns more than a breakout star, the numbers start to feel like they belong to a completely different equation. Number 7. Seth Rollins. Salary, $2.4 million. Now we take a massive jump from hundreds of thousands to millions. And strangely enough, this one feels right. Seth Rollins at $2.4 million doesn't raise eyebrows, it explains them. This is the kind of number that matches consistency, performance, and reliability. He was everywhere, doing everything, delivering at a level that made him essential. But here's where the strange element sneaks back in. When you compare him to others around him, especially those he shared the spotlight with, you realize he's not just earning well, he's earning significantly more. And that gap, that's what makes it interesting. Because it shows WWE doesn't just reward presence, they reward versatility, and they pay heavily for it. But there's another layer to that $2.4 million that makes it even more fascinating. It's not just about what Seth Rollins did inside the ring, it's about how often WWE could rely on him when things didn't go according to plan. Injuries happen, storylines fall flat, crowd reactions shift overnight, and in a business that unpredictable, Having someone who can instantly stabilize the show is incredibly valuable. Seth wasn't just performing, he was solving problems in real time. Whether it meant switching from hero to villain, carrying a long match, or elevating someone else without losing his own credibility, he adapted without hesitation. That kind of flexibility isn't common, and when WWE finds it, they don't hesitate to invest heavily. The $2.4 million starts to feel less like a reward and more like insurance. Insurance that no matter what happens, the show won't collapse. And then there's the pressure that comes with being in that position. When you're earning more than many of your peers, expectations don't stay the same, they multiply. Every match has to deliver, every segment has to matter. There's no room for an off night because the number attached to your name demands consistency at the highest level. And somehow, Seth managed to carry that weight without it showing. Week after week, he stepped into different roles, different rivalries, different tones, and still made it feel seamless. That's where the real value lies. Not just in being great once, but in being great over and over again, no matter the circumstances. And when you look at it from that angle, the gap between him and others doesn't just feel intentional, it feels calculated. Number 6, Dean Ambrose. Salary, $1.1 million. This is where things start to feel uneven again. $1.1 million is a huge salary, no question. But when placed next to Seth Rollins' $2.4 million, it suddenly feels smaller than it should. Especially considering both were part of the same iconic group. Both had strong fan connections, both were central to major storylines, and yet the gap is massive. That's what makes this strange, not the number itself, but the comparison. WWE clearly saw different long-term value in each individual, and that difference translated into nearly double the pay. It's not unfair in a traditional sense, but it definitely doesn't feel balanced. Number 5, Big Show. Salary, $1.5 million. Now we step into the world of legacy pay. Big Show at $1.5 million makes sense until you realize how often he was actually appearing. This wasn't a full-time, every-week presence. This was a legend brought in when needed, and yet the paycheck remained heavy. That's where WWE's philosophy becomes clear. Longevity equals value. Size equals value. Recognition equals value. Even if screen time decreases, the number doesn't necessarily follow. And that's what makes it strange, because in most industries, less work means less pay. In WWE, less work can still mean premium value if your presence carries weight. Number 4, The Undertaker. Salary, $2 million. Now we enter a completely different category. This isn't just a wrestler. This is an aura, a symbol, a legacy that transcends weekly programming, and $2 million reflects that. But here's the strange part. He didn't need to show up regularly. He didn't need long matches or constant appearances. One moment was enough. One entrance was enough. And that's what WWE was paying for. Not time, not effort, but impact. It's a different kind of currency. And once you understand that, the number starts to make sense, even if it still feels unreal. Number 3, Kevin Dunn. Salary, $4.7 million. And now things get very strange, because this isn't a wrestler. This isn't someone fans cheer for or boo. This is a behind-the-scenes executive earning more than most of the on-screen talent. $4.7 million. That's not just high, it's shockingly high, especially in a business built around performers. But WWE isn't just about wrestling, it's about presentation. Production, the way everything is delivered to the audience, and Kevin Dunn controlled that. Still, when someone invisible to most fans earns more than the visible stars, it flips expectations completely. This is where the list stops feeling predictable and starts feeling surreal. Number 2, John Cena. Salary, $9.5 million. Now we move into unbelievable territory, nearly $10 million a year. And yet, somehow, it still makes sense, because John Cena wasn't just a wrestler. He was the face of the company, the brand, the identity. He carried WWE into mainstream spaces, into movies, into global recognition, and that kind of influence doesn't come cheap. Still, when you hear the number out loud, it feels unreal. $9.5 million isn't just a salary, it's a statement, a declaration of how valuable one individual can become when they represent more than just their role. Number 1. Brock Lesnar. Salary, $6 million. And here it is, the strangest number on the list. Not because it's the highest, but because of what it represents. $6 million for limited appearances, for select matches, for moments instead of consistency. And yet, that's exactly why it works. Brock Lesnar wasn't meant to feel normal. He was meant to feel rare, dangerous, different. WWE wasn't paying for quantity, they were paying for the reaction he creates, the anticipation, the "this feels bigger than usual" energy. And that's what makes this number the strangest of all, because it proves that in WWE, sometimes doing less can actually be worth more. And when you step back and look at all these numbers together, a pattern emerges. But it's not a simple one. It's not about fairness. It's not about effort. It's about perception, value, and timing. From normal to strange to unbelievably strange, these salaries reveal one truth. WWE doesn't follow a straight line. It follows its own rules. And those rules, they're what make this world so fascinating and so unpredictable.